this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
The big game commercials are basically must-see TV. This year, Elf Cosmetics went all out with an absurdly funny telenovela called Melissa. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Nicholas Gonzalez, Itati Cantoral, and Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil. The Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil is an ultra-glossy tinted lip oil that nourishes, hydrates, and enhances your lips' natural color.
Watch the full episode of their new Elf novela on soyunbaño.com.
Ever wonder why so many people regain weight after stopping a GLP-1? Up to 40% of the weight lost can come from lean muscle. This weakens the body, slows metabolism, and makes it easier to put the pounds back on, creating a cycle of dependency. Prolon's 5-day fasting-mimicking diet offers a drug-free way to maintain results and support long-term metabolic health. In just 5 days, it activates fasting pathways to burn fat, protect muscle, and rejuvenate cells, all while letting you enjoy real food. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/iHeart. That's prolonlife.com/iHeart.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Welcome to One Thing Trump Did, available exclusively on the Middle podcast feed. I'm Jeremy Hobson, and each week on this show, we pick just one thing coming out of the Trump White House to focus on it and talk about it in a nonpartisan way with someone who knows what they're talking about. In this episode, we're talking not so much about an action, but a reaction to a number of things that President Trump is doing. The reaction is coming from tourists around the world who are deciding not to come to the United States. Maybe it's because of tougher immigration policies and fears about getting detained by authorities. Maybe it's about the tariffs or pulling out of diplomatic or economic agreements. A recent study from the World Travel and Tourism Council that analyzed the economic impact of tourism to 184 countries found that the U.S. was the only country forecast to see a decline in international visitor spending in 2025. People in places that international tourists visit are already seeing the effects. Here's a Los Angeles tour bus operator named Kami Farhadi speaking with CBS News.
In the first quarter of this year, we're down about 29 to 30%.
And what are they saying when they cancel?
They don't feel safe. They don't feel welcome.
And here is Nevada Congressman Stephen Horsford speaking with Next Gen America.
We have 40 million people who come to Las Vegas from all over the world. But we've already seen a decline of 17% of travelers from Canada to Las Vegas in just the first few months since the start of this year. It's the tariffs, but it's also the fact that they don't feel welcome.
Joining me now is Forbes reporter Suzanne Rowan Kelleher, who covers travel and tourism. Suzanne, great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So give us the big picture, first of all. What does the decline look like so far, where people are seeing it?
Well, the U.S. coming into 2025 was expecting a 9% increase in tourism from international visitors. And that figure came from Tourism Economics, which is a division of Oxford Economics. So they were expecting about $16.5 billion extra on top of the 254 billion they brought in last year, just solely from international tourists. Instead, now they're projecting an 8.2% decrease. So the variance of 17.2% is a lot. And that really adds up to about $29 billion that tourism officials believe we're missing out on this year.
And we heard there from Los Angeles and Las Vegas. Are those the places, or where are the places where this is going to be seen the most from international tourists deciding not to come?
In one way, it's kind of all over, but in very specific way, Canadians are the biggest group that are not coming. Last year, Canadians made up a quarter of all international tourists to the U.S. They spent $20.5 billion in the U.S. And to put that number into context, because I think a lot of times people hear this big number and just they can't really picture it,
right.
But it's twice what Americans spent on McDonald's all last year.
Wow.
So they spend a lot of money and they're having a boycott. So those numbers are really down. Yesterday, we found out from Statistics Canada that in June, 33%, so a whole third fewer Canadians came across the border than last June. Most Canadians are traveling by car, so that really impacts the border states, Vermont,
Right.
Maine, Michigan, Washington, etc. And then you have Florida, which has a lot of tourism from all over the world. They're also seeing a decrease.
It's interesting that Canadians make up such a big portion of the international tourists coming to this country. If you think about just domestically, I remember I grew up in Illinois, and I remember hearing that the biggest amount of people that go and visit Chicago as tourists are people from other parts of Illinois. Probably some of the biggest tourists to New York City are people from the surrounding states because it's easy to get there and they can drive, they can get in easily by train. So it makes sense that the Canadians would be the ones that we would see this the most, especially because Trump has specifically gone after Canadians in a number of ways, including saying that they should be the 51st state, which they don't like for the most part.
Right. I mean, we really saw this take off after the tariffs were announced. But actually, for Canada, Trump was talking about making Canada the 51st state back when Trudeau was still prime minister. And he started talking in February about a boycott, telling people, look, don't spend your tourism dollars in the United States. It was one of the last things he said as he left office in April. And really, that boycott has only gotten stronger month to month.
Where are people going instead, or do we know that at this point?
We do. And we know that from, interestingly, the hotel corporation's earnings calls. Hotel executives got on, I think back in May to talk about their first quarter earnings. And they said all the multinational companies were like, well, they're not coming to the U.S. The Canadians aren't coming to the U.S., but they're going to Mexico and they're going to the Caribbean and they're going to Europe, and we get their business when they go there too. So we're seeing that the Canadian travelers it's not like they're staying home. They are traveling. They're just not coming to the U.S. And we're also seeing declines from Europe, Germany, Denmark, as you can imagine, after the Greenland talk. But, really down from Europe, down from Canada, Mexico, really every country is down almost, except maybe, I wanted to say, I saw a stat where Brazil might have been up a little bit or level, but that's the outlier.
I was just in Europe and I heard from some people who said that they don't want to come into the United States right now because they're worried that they're going to be stopped, detained, questioned just because of the tougher immigration policies of the Trump administration, which is interesting because years ago, I remember speaking with friends in the UK who said that they didn't want to come in and move back to the United States. These are Americans who've been living in the UK for a while because they were worried about school shootings for their kids. That was the issue. Now they're worried about, immigration stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the headlines are brutal. And like Canada, going back to Canada, there is a retired minister of parliament from Canada called Charlie Angus, who is very vocal on social media. And he is saying, don't go to the United States. And he keeps calling attention to the fact that apparently ICE has 55 Canadians who had lawful visas to enter the U.S. and they've been detained. So there is a lot of fear. I've even frankly heard of Americans who are afraid to, they want to bring a burner phone when they travel so that when they come back to the U.S., they won't have their phone searched. You know, Homeland Security tells me that it's a very tiny percentage of Americans that would ever have their phones looked at, but you do hear these stories. And the LA Times had a headline, a story, I think like a week ago, where somebody came in and was detained for about 45 minutes, wasn't given a reason. And what he told the paper was that he thinks it was the Obama t-shirt he had in his carry-on bag. So, and there are other instances of people claiming that they've been asked, do you like Trump? As one of the questions when they come in. So all of these, when you put them all together, it just, kind of makes people think twice. And you had the World Tourism and Trade Council, their president said the U.S. has basically, the welcome mat has been rolled up. You get that kind of feeling when you look at the stats too.
Well, you had talked about the fact that it's a couple $100 billion worth just international tourism to the United States in terms of the overall revenue that comes in. Was it on the upswing before? Like, is the industry just going, what in the world is going on right now? This is not what we were expecting to happen.
Yeah, well, of course, everything came to a grinding halt during the pandemic. So a lot of times the stat that they look at is 2019, and they compare everything back to that. We were not, in 2024, we had not hit 2019 numbers yet, but 2025 was supposed to be a banner year. And you heard that from the airlines. Delta said it was going to be their best ever year. That's not happening. Pretty much any industry in the travel sphere is not having a great year.
Well, and in a moment, I want to ask you about what the industry is doing to try to reverse this trend. But stand by. One Thing Trump Did with Forbes reporter Suzanne Rowan Kelleher. We'll be right back.
You'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
You see it instantly. It's Cold Water Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather.
It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was hard to wrap your head around. It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to my parents, I lied to police, I lied to everybody.
There were years, right, where I could not say your name.
I've decided to go back to my hometown in Northern California, interview my friends, family, talk to police, journalists, whomever I can, to try to find out what actually happened.
Isn't it a little bit weird that they obsess over hippies in the woods and not the obvious boyfriend?
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'll teach you sons of to come around here and my wife. Boom, boom.
This is The Red Weather. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to One Thing Trump Did exclusively on the Middle podcast feed. I'm Jeremy Hobson. This episode, we're talking about what's happening to international tourism to America because of President Trump's policies and rhetoric. I'm joined by Forbes reporter Suzanne Rowan Kelleher. Do you get the sense right now that the administration is worried about this decline in international tourism?
All I can go by is when I reach out to the Department of Homeland Security and raise the issue, their response is, we're doing everything to keep Americans safe. This is necessary for our immigration agenda. The U.S. Travel Association, which is sort of the lobby group for the industry, they are very concerned. They've put out statements. I think everybody's very guarded. I'm going to be honest. Like, I've talked to government officials who do not want to be named in stories. National parks are seeing that, they have fewer international travelers. So it's hard to get a read. The company line from any government agency is not a problem. We're the United States. Of course, people are going to come. But, I just wrote a story this morning about the World Cup next year. Yeah. And if you look at the big, beautiful bill, there are a number of things in that bill that really, I think, are going to make tourism officials a little bit crazy and really kind of fearful. So the U.S., again, for next year, they're expecting a heyday because of the World Cup. The Big Beautiful Bill has a couple of provisions. One, they're slashing the budget of Brand USA, which is the marketing arm, from $100 million to $20 million. So it's an 80% cut. Then you have this new visa fee. It's called the Visa Integrity Fee that was kind of slapped into the Big Beautiful Bill. It's a $250 fee per person on top of all the other fees that tourists already pay when they come to the U.S.
Just for any tourist that has to pay that fee.
Yeah. So you have, I think there are some countries that are exempt, but like a country like India, for example, they're already paying $185 for just, an entry visa. Now they've got this. So they're talking about $435 before they even get to the United States, right, per person. So for a couple, that's almost $1,000. For a family, that's $2,000. That, I think, is going to have a very chilling effect. Those are the two big ones that are in the bill that I think tourism officials are very concerned about.
So you mentioned the World Cup. There are also going to be some other big events hosted by the United States. The Ryder Cup 2025, of course, the Olympics in Los Angeles and the Paralympic Games in 2028. Are experts worried about attendance to these huge global events?
When I asked people early on after the tariffs were announced, I would ask tourism officials if they were concerned about the World Cup. And they would say, no, that's very far away and soccer fans will come. Now you're seeing a little bit of hedging. And FIFA, when they have done their analysis of what economic impact the World Cup will have for the U.S., they are projecting a $30.5 billion boom. But that is projecting a lot of foreign visitors. And what FIFA has told the host cities is that they'll be getting half of their visitation from domestic and half from foreign. Well, if you're kind of hamstringing the foreign element, I think there might be reason for a little bit of concern that they're going to be able to fill those stadiums. You could see already that the Club World Cup had to drastically cut ticket prices to fill those stadiums.
If you ever travel abroad from the United States, sometimes there are travel advisories to countries that you're visiting. Maybe there's disease or social unrest or conflict going on. Have any countries put travel advisories like that on the United States?
There are a few. A lot of them have to do with the LGBTQ provisions that, for example, if you have a sex marker as an X on your passport instead of an M or an F, that has been something the Trump administration has been going after. So countries have warned people to be very careful. They've warned them about saying anything as they're clearing customs, carrying anti-Trump paraphernalia or anything like that. So there's definitely a lot of chatter. I think to get to the stage where you actually issue a travel warning, that's a big deal. And we have seen a couple of those.
So you mentioned Brand USA and the tourism organizations. What about the companies? Because it does seem like when Trump makes a policy and then, his buddy, a CEO, goes golfing with him and says, this is really bad for us, then he comes back, well, maybe we're not going to have the immigration policies affect the farming industry or retail or something like that. Are the hotel companies, the airlines, are they going to the administration and saying, this is a real problem?
They might be privately. You do not see it publicly. You see a little bit in the earnings calls, usually in response to a question from like an analyst or somebody in the media. They might acknowledge that these are turbulent times or that the economic landscape is very uncertain, but I have not heard anybody go specifically and say this is the fault of the Trump administration.
If there is a big decline in international tourism that is sustained over the next couple of years, is that something that, gets reversed if there's a new president that comes in, or is this something that really will affect the United States for a long time and its image and brand among tourists?
Well, I've spoken to multiple people at Tourism Economics. They seem to be of the mind that this is going to last, maybe not at this degree, but they call it sentiment headwinds are going to last through this administration. And I think that it's different, like if it was just the tariffs, right? Then you flip the switch. If you take the tariffs away, people come. People should be coming from overseas because the dollar has really gone down quite a bit, like 10% since the beginning of the year. This should make it cheaper for people to come to the U.S., but they're not coming. I mean, obviously, lots of people are coming, but the percentage dip is adding up to a big loss.
That is Suzanne Rowan Kelleher, who covers travel and tourism for Forbes. Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks to you for listening to One Thing Trump Did. It was produced by Harrison Patino. Our next middle episode is coming to your podcast feed later this week. We're going to be asking you about the safety of social media for kids who reportedly spend 4, 5, 6 more hours a day on social media at this point. If you like this podcast, rate it wherever you get your podcast. Write us a review. Our theme music was composed by Noah Haidu. I'm Jeremy Hobson. Talk to you soon.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Over the last couple years, didn't we learn that the folding chair was invented by Black people because of what happened in Alabama?
The Montgomery Brawl.
This Black History Month, the podcast Selective Ignorance with Mandy B unpacks Black history and culture with comedy, clarity, and conversations that shake the status quo. The Crown Act in New York was signed in July of 2019, and that is a bill that was passed to prohibit discrimination based on hairstyles associated with race. To hear this and more, listen to Selective Ignorance with Mandy B from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
1969, Malcolm and Martin are gone. America is in crisis. And at Morehouse College, the students make their move.
These students, including a young Samuel L. Jackson, locked up the members of the Board of Trustees, including Martin Luther King Sr. It's the true story of protest and rebellion in Black American history that you'll never forget. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather. In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from the commune.
It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to everybody.
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'm going back to my hometown to uncover the truth. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.